Welcome to the WangHiro podcast, where we answer Malaysians' burning questions about personal finance with fact-based answers.
When you look at the list of the richest people in Malaysia, you'll notice that they're all business owners. For instance, on the very top of the list is Robert Kwok, whose company controls 60% of Malaysia's sugar market. He's one of the most well-known billionaires from Malaysia. Then we also have Ananda Krishnan, the famed owner of Astro. The list goes on. So when someone looks at a list like this and they want to achieve the same kind of wealth, they're going to think to themselves, I should start a business. Making a lot of money certainly motivated me to start my own business at the age of 22. But there's definitely a lot to starting a business than just making money. Welcome back to the WangHiro podcast. Today we're talking about starting a business and will your business make you filthy rich? So I think it's worth starting this discussion by defining what rich means. Everyone defines rich quite differently, don't they, John?
Yeah, very much so. I think when they're worth 100 million, they say they're poor because they're comparing themselves to the 1 billion guy, right?
That's true. That's true. That's
Yeah.
true. So for you, John, how would you define rich? What would be? Are you rich? Do you feel rich now? And if not, then what would be that rich life for you?
Okay. I feel rich in terms of time right now, very much so comparatively to my employment days. My employment days was literally rushing from things to things. So in terms of, you see rich, right? Like what you said, it comes in many forms and definition. But for me, I think rich in terms of time is actually a first starting step lah. For some, I think it is a struggle to even think about getting to that state, about get rich with time, because they're literally trying to climb the corporate ladder, trying to get paid more in terms of hours. But what they will suffer eventually is that, wow, I don't have any time for myself. And when you don't have any time for myself, you don't even have time to reflect and think of what's your next step and all that kind of thing. So personally for me, one is I feel richness in terms of time. I get to meet very interesting entrepreneurs. Even, before we even started WangHiro, Louis, just imagine the time we spend just to get to know each other, right? And, I tell people, my business partner, I've never physically met. They laugh and I'm like, wow. And then I think you told your sister too, and then we've never physically met, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, but if we didn't have the time, you didn't have time, I didn't have the time, right? I don't think we would have had the time to align this business goal. So I think that's one of the definitions. Second thing is, let's all be realistic lah. We all need money to survive. And a lot of times we hear this common saying, but I disagree with it, is that money is the root of all evil. And I believe the other thing is, the other statement is truer, which is the greed of money is the root of all evil. So you need money. You need the practicality of having money to survive, some kind of a cash flow. But most people turn to the greed that makes money evil. So I don't think people who are greedy for themselves, for self-improvement, is a bad thing. A lot of people say that they shouldn't be greedy. Yeah, but the definition of greed, there's a scale of greedy, right?
I think it is like the stigma of being rich, right?
Correct.
Money. Oh,
Correct.
What if like I get rich and I become a bad person?
And they flaunt their wealth and they become a bad person. Actually, again, I think we've said this in previous episodes, Louis, is that money is just a multiplier. If you are a bad person, you will multiply it, you become even more of an A, right? But if you, yeah, but if you're a nice guy and you grew your wealth through taking a risk, taking a chance on yourself, through honest work, honest hard work, I think you deserve it. I have more respect for entrepreneurs, even more so after starting my own entrepreneur journey. And I think entrepreneurs should be, I would say, hailed because they create employment. They create sources of taxes, economy, and all that kind of thing. And being rich is actually a good thing for society, don't take the examples of the bad hat who flaunt their wealth and all that kind of thing, but think of the rich people that, actually provided employment, provided a source of economy. I think you and I wouldn't be enjoying Indomie today. It's not because if the Salem family didn't start this business, we wouldn't enjoy Indomie. You know, one of my favorite instant noodles.
Yeah, the little snack that everyone eats, just, you know, that, yeah.
Correct,
Comfort
correct,
food,
correct.
the comfort food,
Correct,
yeah.
correct. So that's how I define rich. So there's an amount for me. I think my first hurdle is a 5 million thing. Once I hit that, I think I'm happy. But obviously, I want more. Not so much for the greed of the wealth, but more that I can do with my wealth. So for you, Louis, what is your definition of being rich?
So I think for me, I never actually thought of it the same way as you in terms of the time. But come to think of it, I also feel very rich because of that.
Yeah.
And so in terms of the money, I used to follow this personal finance guy. I guess he's again quite famous now because of his Netflix series. His name is Rami.
Yes, correct.
You seen his Netflix series?
I've seen the title. I put it on my watch list, but I haven't had the time to watch it yet.
Yeah, so back then, when he was just starting out, that was when I was 19 years old, actually, in 2008. I read some books about investing money, but when I came across Rami Sethi's work, what really attracted me to it was his philosophy about what being rich meant. And for him, it was being able to spend lavishly on anything you want and not have to cut back on lattes. If you want lattes, get it. But if you don't want lattes, of course, you don't have to. But back then, I think it's still quite prominent now, frugality. Or if you want to save a lot of money, you have to cut back on your daily lattes, your Starbucks. And for him, he's like, okay, get your Starbucks. You know, care about if it's something that makes you happy, get the Starbucks, get the car, get whatever you want. But you have to have a plan on how to get there. You know, cut out on everything that doesn't make sense to you, and then you can get there. Yeah. So for me, if I can financially afford things like that, that matters most to me. I feel the richest. So for me, my figure back then was about 2 million a year. About I did a calculation on a rough Excel spreadsheet when I was about 19.
Nice.
Putting in everything.
You're an outlier, definitely.
Yeah, I used to spreadsheet. I used to do a lot of spreadsheets back then when I had a stable salary. So I projected everything based on, you know, his philosophies, and I was like, okay, I need about 2 million a year. Yeah, so if I can make 2 million, then that would be great. And because I did that, and because I had this definition and about being rich, I realized, oh, I'm never gonna be rich if I work in this job. Right, the highest paid person is my boss, and he was probably making like 10 to 20 million a year, maybe. Him, right? So if he's not, I'm never gonna make 2 million a year here, right? So I told myself, you know, the only way that I can get there is if I started my own business.
Understood. Yeah. Understood. And does that figure still stand even after you've matured? You know, you've gotten more exposure to the world. Is it still 2 million net of inflation kind of thing?
So that was in 2008. You know, so wow. That's when that was when, you know, our money was worth a lot more against the US dollars. So now, probably including inflation, that figure would have to be 5 million already.
Yeah, just per year.
Per year. So that figure would have translated to 2023 figures would be 5 million. So I think it still stands in the sense that if I make that amount, I'm happy. I won't be like, oh, you know, I need more and more and more. Of course, you can make more. It's just that, okay, if I'm at that level, okay, I think I feel rich because that's when I can afford a lot of things. For some people, 5 million is not a lot of money. You can. I have very rich friends who make about 10 million, 20 million a year. That's like the price of one Bentley for them. So for them, that's not a lot of money. They have like watch collections, which cost a lot more than that. So for me, that's an okay amount to start with and to sustain a rich life. Yeah, that I don't have to think about, will this impact, like I can travel anywhere with the transportation I like.
Yeah.
I have freedom of my time, more freedom of my time, freedom of experiences, freedom of investing, things like that. Yeah.
I think, thank you for sharing that, because I think for a lot of people, they don't dare to put that kind of figure because they work from the mindset of, can I even achieve that?
Hmm.
You get me?
So,
They don't dare to
it's
go
like
ahead.
they are scared of it, is it?
Yeah, they're scared of it because they said, if I want this, right? They start off with the limitations rather than the possibilities, if I were to summarize it. So they said, okay lah, 1 month 20K more than enough already lah. 1 month 30K more than enough. And especially when you're younger, you don't have family responsibilities. You're just living for yourself. And obviously, you have to. It will progress as you get older. You shoulder more responsibilities, like having a family, having children, and all that kind of thing, lah. Yeah, but back to your question about definition of rich. I think it comes in many shapes and sizes. Some people, 20K a month for them is the world already. Some people, 20K a day spending also not enough.
Yeah, definitely. I think we all I knew of so when I was younger, starting my business, I used to hang out with this group of socialites, and literally they would tell me that that literally I was standing beside them and they made a phone call. I'm like, oh, just pay 20,000 USD to them, one phone call.
Oh,
yeah.
So
that is a different level. Of course, they were from a very prominent KL family lah, so they can afford that kind of thing. It's normal for them. It's daily life.
Yes.
So again, no matter what is the definition of being rich, right? I think a lot of it will. So my definition and my figure prompted me to start my own business because I was scared, right? What if I never reached that figure? I calculated, I was an engineering student at that time. So I looked at all the salary, how much would an engineer earn in Miri, right? It was about small company, about 1,006 to 2,002, right? Then I projected, net of expenses whatsoever, you don't actually have much left. So if I stay here, I will just be like doomed one day, So that prompted me to actually start exploring businesses, and I started my first business at the age of 22.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
This was a business where I sold gadgets. So back then there was no Shopee, all these, like it was not, Lazada wasn't even around yet. It's pre-Lazada everything. So I imported all of these things from Alibaba. Sold it locally via Facebook groups and all that. Yeah.
But you had to stock up inventory yourself lah, in a way lah.
Correct. So back then, like now you can do business much more easily because Shopee offers you very competitive prices, right? So if you could leverage that, like arbitrage that, you could still make a lot of money, you see. But back then there was no such arbitrage in terms of e-commerce. So you had to fork up money, put up I took, because I had a stable job at the time, so I saved up a capital of few thousand, maybe 5,000 into the business to kickstart it, to get in all the stocks lah. So at that time something very trendy was power banks.
Okay.
Now not as trendy, but I think in some months I literally, like, just from Facebook, or few thousand, like few hundred of these like power banks that we could sell, like boxes and boxes. Like I can't really remember, but it was the sales figures add up to 5 figures of 20 something thousand within 5 months. So I was like, wow, what a good business it is. It's very exciting because I was like tapping on the opportunity of people wanting things and the lack of a marketplace to buy it.
Understand. Were you alone when you were doing it, or were you like?
Oh no, I had a partner at that time. Yeah, okay. So because I was offshore a lot, so they handled that part of the business and really trusted them to do it.
Understand.
But eventually, because of personal reasons, I had to close down this business. Yeah. I didn't really expect that because I fully, whenever I put myself into things, I really wanted it to keep going for at least 20 years if I can. But because of those partner issues, personal reasons, I couldn't continue lah. Yeah, so that's also one of the things that I learned. back then is first lesson in entrepreneurship is even if the business is very profitable, if your partner is not in the same boat with you, then it's maybe not going to be a sustainable business for both of you. Yeah.
Spot on. Spot on. If you don't mind me asking, at a point when you decided to, when the business was still growing, whatsoever, if you had continued on the business in the status quo that you had when you still had that partnership, do you think it will still be relevant today and still be big or not? Because even now we have changed arbitrage and all that. Will it still be big?
It will be big because so why? Because it was the early days of mobile brands, right? So if you were involved in this gadget stuff, it was actually much easier to get distributorship licenses from big brands. And if you would have stepped in at that time to grab those like distributorship, like you can cover a specific region, that's a very big business, because now it's very hard for you to get these distributorship licenses.
I see.
Now they have a huge so I was just talking to a business owner of a sports retail shop. So in Miri, she runs she used to have, I think, 5 outlets selling all the Nike, Puma, etc.
Is it Lia Center? Just guessing.
No,
not Lia Center.
No. Lia is not only 5 lah. Lia in Malaysia, I think got 100 lah.
Yeah.
It's a smaller business. So she was telling me that you have to, now they say, okay, you have to buy at least 200K worth of stocks every month.
Wow.
But even then, right, because she had the license already for 30 years, so I would imagine that to get another license like that, I think it's near to impossible.
I see.
So, so if because I was headed towards that direction with this gadget business, I really wanted to be invested in telco, because I felt like, okay, everyone is getting phones, everyone is, if we can just, you see, if I sell an accessory and I can make 5 figures, and that's just from one product, then if I expand my line and expand the services and expand my brands, I will make a lot of money from there.
Yeah.
So just from that, you can project, you see. So from there, you can project, okay, first year I make about 6 figures already, right? Then the demand is not stopping. And you can see, otherwise there are not going to be like so many phone brands, because the demand will never stop. They're just going to segmentize towards like different people of different income levels, right? So this is why you have Oppo, all these brands. So imagine if like at that time when Xiaomi just came out and you were in the right spot to get the distributorship for that region.
Yeah, enough already. Even Sarawak Northern region, I think good enough already.
Yes. Yeah. And literally, there are like people that I know who do that easy business, because the product sells itself. You don't have to sell the product anymore, and all the accessories, like sometimes you can like they just put it at your shop, and there are some brands which will pay you to open the outlet. You don't even have to pay for the outlet.
Wow.
Yeah. So this business, right, if you expand it on the long time scale, you see, 2000 and when I was 22, that was 2013 until today is 10 years. So if you expand it for 10 years, very big business. Probably can open 10, 20 outlets across Sarawak already. Yeah.
That's a 7-8 figure a year business.
Oh, no, not 7, 8. I think, you see, first I only sell one product, is 6 figures. So it's easily 9-figure business.
9-figure business. Yeah,
yes.
It's crazy.
The revenue is probably net. Yeah, net is probably 7. Yeah, 7 at least. Net. Yeah, net lah. Yeah, because
but net 7 is you are already in the league of some private listed, public listed companies.
Yeah, you will be surprised. A lot of these telco, they earn so much, and a lot of these brands, people don't know this, but they actually pay you to open outlets for them.
Nice.
You don't have to fork out money yourself.
Yeah,
not all brands, but
you just operate for them, because they want the brand. They want someone to run the distributorship for them. Actually,
correct. So you're in the right place if you can take that opportunity. Great. So this is why whenever now I plan new businesses, I think about this partnership I take it very seriously, because there's no point, right? Start it running for 1 year, very profitable, second year close,
Yeah.
or third year close, or even within 5 years we close. That's a this is opportunity cost for me.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So great, thanks for sharing. So you pointed out one very important thing, which is about partnerships, and we'll talk about that more when we come to the challenges of small businesses, because these are things that a lot of times you are lured into a business with the hope of making a lot of money. And I think that's the lure that you, myself, took the kind of risk, because any business that didn't take risks, I doubt they will be successful. You have to take, I'm not saying go into reckless risk, but you have to take calculated risks, and partnership is one of the risks that you have to evaluate, because there's no guideline, or there is some guideline, but there's no rigid SOP to say this is what you should look for in a partner. Tap, 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 tap. That kind of thing. They don't teach you in school.
If you're inexperienced, you don't actually know what they mean. Like what is being honest? What is honesty? It's a very soft thing, you can't really put it into words until you meet that person. You're like, okay, I think he's honest, but what does honesty mean? After 10 years, you know what honesty means. After doing a lot of
correct. You are spot on. Yeah.
How about you, John? I mean, like, what you also started your business. The first one was the insurance business. Did you also face similar partnership issues, or were you solo?
Yeah, I did actually. So actually, when I left my job in Shell, I actually started being an insurance planner first. And while it's your own individual sales, you are your own business unit, your own solopreneur, for the lack of a better word. In the agency that I was attached to, what we try to do is we try to lower our costs. And to be more efficient, that means you mainly do sales, you mainly do marketing, and you do the pitching, right? A lot of insurance planners' time is actually tied down by a lot of what we call operational work, filling out forms, getting the right documents, all that kind of thing. And to be more efficient, actually, I had a JV partner, and we actually both shared the cost of hiring the lack of a better word, secretary, or like a PA to help us do a lot of this paperwork. And this is where I think some of it is my fault, because I spent a lot of time actually training the staff, because he or she is definitely do not know the insurance, because they've never been a planner. You don't send them for training. You don't send them to do a insurance license. Obviously, when you start throwing documents at them and asking them to fill this up, fill that up, right? They don't know what they're doing. And that's where the mistakes are being made, right? And insurance, especially the medical underwriting part, you have to be very, very careful what you declare and what you don't declare. So I spent a lot of time training the staff to the detriment of my sales, because 24 hours a day.
Let me get this clear. You meant that that time that you spent training the staff, you should have used on sales, like
correct,
sales.
Correct. And I think we did not lay that out carefully in the partnership. So it was not to say that it was my partner's fault also, but I think I didn't know how to run a business before. That's the first time for me to run a business. And I think one is having that clear communication and roles and responsibilities. That's why we spent months talking, right? Right, Louis? Expectations, all that kind of thing. Whereas in this one, just came in, I thought I just managed myself, I'm good enough. But then when we hired a staff, because there was cost coming out of our pockets, and things like EPF payment for the staff, and a lot of this operational work I was doing, and even the fines that I was late by a few days paying my staff's EPF. So I had to go and clean it up, in inland revenue, the tax, all that kind of thing. So because of that, right, I think the communication is so key, and expectations should be set upfront. You can't have everything solved upfront, but at least the things that if you had a mentor to teach you all these kind of things, it would have been wonderful. But we were just knocking on walls, because no one will. Yeah.
I think we just say, John, like for me, I think that when this opportunity came up and I just wanted to start a business, I just got really carried away, by the opportunity, the excitement that you would not think these details matter until you make quite a bit of money, I feel like, or until you're in the trenches of the work. Then you think, wow, why is this happening? I don't know what to do. And sometimes if you bring it up midway, it causes a lot of tension.
Correct.
Because you've discussed it.
Yes. And it's like it catches everyone by surprise, or people may know about it, but they just choose to ignore it. And then when we say when SHIT hits the fan, right? Then that's where everyone panics, and that's where the maturity of the mind and experience will actually come into play very importantly. Because most entrepreneurs, for the first time they do it, right? There's so many unknown variables, Louis. I don't know whether you agree with me. It's
agree.
Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah, too many unknown variables that you can't plan for everything.
You can't, like, you see you think, okay, hiring a staff would solve this problem. Not really.
Exactly.
then because we also hired 2 staff. They didn't know what, like, we didn't know what, like, I came out, I was 22, and I didn't know how to train staff. I didn't know what to train them on. I had no systems in place, nothing to train on, but I was paying them salary every month. It's crazy. And this was just a part-time thing, so I was paying them out of my own salary to them, right? And plus the business lah. Yeah. So that was quite a bit of a chunk of money going there, which I think in hindsight I should have spent on something else, right? Which would actually leverage the capital better.
No, but in hindsight, then we know. But at that point of time, right?
No.
A lot of people think that you throw money or you throw people at the problem, you will solve the problem, right? And that's entirely not true, lah. Because I'm actually very grateful that when I had my corporate job in Shell, right? When I was helping manage projects and all that kind of thing, that was already a lesson that I've learned. It doesn't mean the more bodies you throw at it or the more money you throw at it is going to solve the problem.
Yeah.
And that's why I spent quite a bit of time, because from my experience, my partner didn't have a corporate experience. He was actually more of a counselor before. Yeah, his background is from counseling. We still keep in touch to this day. There were disagreements obviously in the business, but we still keep in touch these days. We respect each other as friends, right? But again, because of the lack of experience, I knew this was important. So I spent a lot of time getting the systems right, because the problem will come later. All right. And I think if I were to look back, I think you need to have that kind of balance in terms of experience. Because if not, right, you start everything from scratch. Yes, you may be able to bulldoze through, making these kind of mistakes, but your mistakes can be so catastrophic it may destroy the business. That's the point I'm trying to make, actually.
Yeah, completely agree. I mean, we think that it's a technical issue, when at the end of the day it's mostly a people issue.
Correct.
You see, if we don't manage ourselves, first of all, we don't know what our own expectations are. We all think, okay, like, we're gonna sit together, we're gonna make this amount of money. That's it. I think that's the only discussion I had in my mind. Like, okay, it's an opportunity, let's do it, no matter how. We'll work very hard. I literally worked very, like, after work, I just went and, like, I slept at 12, 1, just to do this. So, I was like, okay, it's definitely gonna make me a millionaire by this age.
Yes.
A crazy idea. So yeah, looking back, you're like, okay, actually I needed this, that. But if you never go through it, you wouldn't know. But it's painful. It's painful. So like, what happened to that staff eventually? Did you guys?
She left, obviously, because she left. I was actually she was very grateful, because she texted me after she left, and after that I couldn't contact her. She was very professional in, like, leaving, because I gave her a smartphone, because you need to. I paid for this phone and everything, because she needed to make a lot of calls for follow up, Great Eastern clients, all that kind of thing, and then I realized, at the same time I also realized insurance planning wasn't for me. Why was because you're going up against people who will do a lot of unscrupulous things to secure sales. And I felt that the journey was too long to burn. And more importantly was this, I think if I stayed, I would have still made money, to be honest. But it was burning me inside because my true passion was still investing. So I deviated the insurance because when I left Shell, I was looking at the mentors that I had. That mentor was actually someone that at that point of time I looked up to. So
why did you look up to them? Were they like
he was my first insurance planner.
Okay.
He was very honest, and the skill sets and the knowledge and experience he had at that point of time. And to this day, I'm very thankful to him because every time we go into company training, you could see that our skill sets was head above heels of against the other agents because we've been trained very well by him. Okay. Yeah. But my struggle was it was gnawing me inside because my interest has always been investing all this while, and it couldn't take me away, no matter how much training that my mentor was giving to me. I was still very much attracted. You know, the law of attraction to what you love, right? You will always naturally gravitate towards So yeah, so then when an opportunity came and I was invited to be a shareholder, equity partner, and to train. I didn't know I was good at training, to be honest, Louis. So commission
that's surprising.
Yeah, I didn't know. No, seriously, I didn't know. So I was a student at that company. And when I left my my job with Shell and I did insurance, so I had a little bit more time to spare. So I attended they had a club gathering every month. So I attended that, and one day the son of the original founding person said, "Hey John, why don't you join me? I want to grow this company." Okay. So initially I started off as a trainer, then I became their group COO, Chief Operating Officer, and then I realized that wow, they've been running this business, but there's a lot of things to systemize, to institutionalize. There was a lot of things that were not properly in place. So with so I went through the effort of cleaning it up to the best of my ability, and eventually I helped listed the company. I was spearheading the listing. So it's actually a listed company in Bursa, Malaysia, on the lead board.
That was like literally your first time doing it. Right?
Yeah. So at first time, I'm not from the finance field. Virtually had to understand legal structures, had to understand Companies Act, had to understand, shareholder agreement, have to understand reporting, corporate governance, everything lah. Literally, I just told the listing lawyer, who eventually became a very good friend of mine. I said, hey, you teach me as if I'm like a zero. So we went through that, literally 3 years of literally grinding, plus training. I was never trained as a trainer also. So it's literally that 3 years was really a baptism of fire, I would say.
I mean, looking back though, what would you say like you would do differently with those two experiences?
I think paying up to learn was even more profound because I'm actually quite of a cost junkie. I feel there's value in the cost. I don't mind paying. Like, there are literally some courses that I paid like 50K before, 60K before. Because for me, you can try to figure it out yourself, but then you will not be able to figure out most of it because it's literally they can give you course material whatsoever, but they don't give you the case studies, the real life examples, all that. You will still end up making the mistakes. Okay. And
That's
even after the course, you will still make the mistakes, but at least you minimize it. You get what I mean? So for me, looking back in hindsight, there was a course, it's a common friend of both of us. He actually taught people even how to do shareholding structure. Like, for example, he will tell you if you got 3 partners, most of the time you think 30, 30, 30, 33, 33, 33, right? Wrong. How do you structure it that one person actually has majority control, 60% or 70%? Why do you not structure a guy that has less than 30? Because actually less than if you have 30%, you can actually veto the deal even though you're minority. Yeah, so there are a lot of these kind of things in the you can read the Companies Act and try to figure it out. But usually you go to a COSAC or a lawyer, right? They can tell you from a legal perspective, but how do you apply in business? What are the scenarios that will happen? So for me, first lesson looking back is pay out for good courses that teach you all this. And find the right mentor or whatever, because it can help you a very long way, especially to a lot of startup founders. I think now they're very lucky. Why? They have a lot of startup incubators, business owners that come in and want to mentor. For me, this is super important because entrepreneurship is a very, very lonely journey, to be honest.
For sure.
Yeah. Second lesson, I think it's more about the partners that you want to get into business with. I think friends are some of the worst partners you want to get into. And I'll tell you why. Not because you don't value the friendship. It's because you value the friendship. That's why you may not want to get into partnership with friends first. You know, because there's so many things that can actually spoil the friendship and relationship. And ironically, I find that people you find with common interests, and then you start a business with them is actually a better bet than finding your old friend or whatever. Because values, you see, right? Common interests, values, all that matters more than friendship in running a business. Like, for example, you have a best friend, you've known him or her since 7 years old, but he or she may not have developed into the skill sets required of a CEO or a CFO. How you want to hold them accountable?
And it's also like it's also that personal thing. Like if you are too harsh with them, they'll take it personally.
Right.
Why are you doing this to me? You don't think about like how long we've been friends, that kind of issue.
Yes.
It can cause long-term problems, actually.
Exactly, and especially in our Asian culture where we don't like confrontation. I think that's actually a detriment, because like Reed, the founders of Netflix, Mark Randolph and actually Reed Hastings, right? And when Mark was CEO in the earliest, when they were doing okay, when they pivoted, all that, Reed got to a point where he saw Mark couldn't perform as a CEO, and he was very blunt and brutal with Mark. That's why Mark stepped down. And not many people have that kind of EQ maturity to actually recognize, hey, I may not be the right person, whatever, you know. These are kind of things that, you know, second lesson learned is like, when you get into partnerships, right, I think sometimes is when the business reaches a certain point, it's inevitable that the business outgrows the person. I don't know if you understand, you heard of this phrase before. Yeah. So yeah, what about you, Louis? I mean, looking back.
Sorry, I mean you become a small fish in a big pond suddenly.
Correct. And then you realize that the sharks are much bigger here.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I'll echo the same about the partnerships. So I realized over time that is number one for me. Like who I work with. I actually, like, after a few, not only this experience, a few experiences where I was working with unsuitable partners. I actually made a list down who I want to work with. If I were to partner with anyone, who I should work with. And I always wrote this: honest and ethical. That's number one. So honest, and if they're honest and ethical, I feel like doesn't matter what we do, how we do it, as long as do it with these principles in place, we'll always be on the right track. No matter what business we do, I can like sell nasi lemak with this person, I will still make money. Because they're honest and ethical, they will not scam our customers with bad ingredients, right? And they will not scam me because they're just not in them to scam people, steal money, you know. So that already covers everything within the business. As long as this person is honest and ethical, okay, maybe number two, we have to think about if they have the skills for that. But you can't think of it the other way around, where you think about the skills first and the honest and ethical number two.
Yes. The values should come first rather than the skills.
Yeah, agree. So if the values come first, the skills come later, this for me is a very long-term business. And for me, right, long-term business is the business that makes money.
Yeah.
Unlike what many people might think from the media these days, is oh, this entrepreneur made how many millions. We have to check back 10 years later. Are they still there? Where's the business going? It's very likely you check back 3 years, they're gone. I've done it. Like I checked, I was like, wow, this is quite an interesting business. I wonder what are the margins like. Business model seems a bit off, but you know, good for them that they made a business out of this. 1 year later, close shop. closed shop completely. So I was like, oh, actually, it did not make business sense at all. And sometimes it's because the partners were stealing money or like taking the money, going on vacations. It's crazy. And if you're unethical, also even worse, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Many public examples. I think 3 Arrow is
Oh,
one.
3 Arrows is a fantastic one, man. I just read the recent report about deniability from anyone. No signs of remorse at all, you know. No signs of
I
remorse.
think it was the Straits Time article, right? I read the
Yeah,
same article.
correct.
No remorse at all. Imagine were there 3 partners? All of them siphon money from the company. They live luxuriously. One of them in the article even said, I don't have to work forever.
Yeah.
Think about that level of wealth that they've taken, and they don't want, even if they have money, they are not gonna give it back to you.
Yeah.
Whatever. It's like, you know, you took a risk, you did this, it's not our problem, you see. So for me, like whenever I see things like that, it's not a long-term thing, right? So for me, partnership is number one. So I have to work with someone with these values and then with the right skill set. I think it's like, yeah, maybe number 3 would be the interest. So as long as they fit into this quite entrepreneur in terms of finding the opportunities and not too rigid, it's okay for me. Yeah. But number 1, ethics, right?
Ethics and
so
value.
for me, that's the only thing. Yeah. When I look back, that's the only thing. Every time a business fails, I find that's the main problem. Okay. Maybe number 2, if I look back, I would say more systematic approach and more investment in capex. Yeah, so I would say instead of hoarding the cash too much, I'll have like just deployed the cash a bit more. So I also like currently help my family with the retail. So I found that a lot of retail businesses, right, on this point is that you actually need to renovate your outlet every few years, but a lot of retail business never budget for that. They never budget. So what happens is that whether it's a retail shop or a cafe, right, this outlet will get age out of the trend. Your business will keep dropping. There's no point to hoard the money anymore. Literally, I've seen a lot of cafes. You see, the cafe thing is like, if someone comes to a cafe, took a picture, they're not gonna come 20 times to take the same picture because your ambience is the same, exactly the same. It will look embarrassing for them. Many people don't realize this. So the smart business owners, if you look at McDonald's, how many times have they renovated, right?
Yeah. We would think it's a waste of money, but for them, it's a business strategy, actually.
It's a strategy. The menus keep changing. They renovate it's completely okay. Like if you see, oh, do I have to renovate the store when it's like torn? No, you have to renovate it because you have to renovate it. Yeah. So for me, I would say that was also another takeaway, is that I don't want to wait for the trend to pass. I have to put the capex in before that. Yeah, put the system in before that. So these were the main 2 things. So I then always brought these into the future businesses that I built and the next few that I have. Okay, so I think how about like for you, John, like if today there's like this employee, I'm sure you have a lot of friends or like contacts like that approach you and they're like very, very eager to start their business. Okay, they're like, oh, I really want to start a business. What would be your advice to them? Like, what are the things that you say, hey, watch out, these are the challenges that you might face as a business owner?
Actually, the scenario has happened many times. There was one, quite a close family friend. The husband wanted to refinance the house because it was a Taiwanese franchise. And okay, so here's the story. So I start with some context so it's better understood. The husband's friend said that he's too busy with his other businesses. This business, they want to 让给你. So
okay.
said, oh, this one, you know, I'm just too busy with my other businesses. This one, I give you chance lah. You know, I think you'll benefit from it lah. I give you opportunity to.
Opportunity, okay.
Opportunity, okay. So then straight away, it's an upfront cost, cafe, Taiwanese, I think boutique cafe, I think upfront the franchise fee plus some renovation, I think more than 300,000. I can't remember what was the exact amount. But he wanted to refinance the house. And obviously the wife are opposed to it. So I did not, I just hear the secondhand stories, because for me, it's like, wow, what are I'm using this as an example because I feel that this is a lot of times when people approach you and say, I want to give you the chance to do business. Ironically, it's a yellow flag already, not red flag. It's a yellow flag. Not to say it's all bad, but usually when they say, oh, I want to give you, sorry guys, in this world, there's no such thing as a free lunch. I mean, like for you, Louis, you have to go to open a business, right? Rather than someone just landed on your, right?
if it lands on you like a good deal, it's not a good deal. Like I think this same scenario happened to an acquaintance of mine. So this bubble tea shop in Miri was doing quite well, but recently, like bubble tea itself is a dying trend. Right?
Correct.
So suddenly, like the offer came in, then he bought it, then he said no business. You see, so it's like upfront investment, and then like the ongoing costs. Every month you have to pay the operating costs, the staff, your ingredients, everything. So it's like making a loss immediately, because you never study the trend, never study the trend. You just like, wow, I feel like this is a good business to just go in.
Yeah. And to your point about what you mentioned earlier. So first thing, whenever a business deal too good to be true lands on your lap, something's not right. For me lah. Sometimes it can be, but very rare lah. Very, very rare lah. Most of the time is.
I think especially if they know that you are inexperienced.
Correct.
That's it.
Correct. Usually the deals that you pitch to, usually is the poor people that pitch to the rich people the business deal one. It's not the other way around. Okay. So here's the second thing, and this is a good segue. Most entrepreneurs I see, they fall in love with the idea of the product or the service, but they're not very good in numbers. And this is where I see very, very good business people, right? They don't need a complicated Excel spreadsheet or whatever, but they're very good at what we call ballpark accounting. Because it's like they straight away they see, let's say, okay, you give them a business opportunity, a business model, whatever, right? They understand the unit economics very fast. So straight away, in probably 5 minutes, they can tell you what are the assumptions you put in for you to get the money, and what are the assumptions of the margins that you're going to make. Those are the skill sets any entrepreneur needs to have. So like I was telling you before the podcast, Louis, someone actually pitched one of my friends, and he just so happened, my friend just pulled me in to listen. I was caught by surprise. The moment I knew was when I just got the drinks and landed on the table, and there were 3 extra guys there. I'm like, hey, what's going on? So it was okay. But what I took away from that was actually these founders were not sharp with the numbers. So you must know your numbers like the back of it, because you're running the business, ma. You should really
So they were the business owners, but they didn't know their numbers.
They knew roughly their numbers, but not as what I expected lah. My expectation is your numbers very, very, very well. They were like they knew top line, bottom line, but and some margin, but they didn't know what are the things to tweak. What were the key levers of their business? Because they said they wanted money to scale, so it was break-even business at best, right? But they wanted money to scale. So I said, in terms of scaling, they just like give me a lump sum and that's it, some working capital. So for me, when you put a lump sum, you put working capital, that means you have not thought through.
No.
Really, yeah.
Oh my God. That's interesting. I mean, I would be scared to invest in business like that where you don't know where the money is going.
Correct. But I have to give it to them. The business model was unique. But I feel that they need to be sharp on that. And I realized, I would say 80-90% of the time, is that you don't know the numbers. That's why business will be like. I give you another real life example that it's not among my circle of friends or whatever, but it's something that's publicized quite well known. You heard of the Gucci brand?
Gucci, okay.
Yeah, I don't know if you watched the saga of how Mauricio Gucci, which is the the son of the original founders of Gucci, actually came in and tried to change the direction of the business. He was fantastic with the business model, but he was so bad at numbers. So bad. so bad. He loved projections, all that. They actually got a what do you call it? They actually got an investment asset management company to buy into their stake, a very big stake. And when these groups of people, corporate finance guys, was working with them, working with Mauricio, they just said, so what, when we're spending this kind of money, how are we going to make money back? And then he gave them a figure, and then he said, what was the basis of that? Is it last year you did 30%, that's why this year you can do 40%, things like that? He just plucked it out of the sky. Okay.
Oh
that
my
was
goodness.
The second mistake. The first mistake he did was Gucci used to sell Gucci accessories. So things like the cheaper end of the stuff lah. So let's say a hand, maybe a wallet that is made out of like clothing instead of leather, because Gucci, they started off as leather, high quality leather goods and all that. That was bringing 50% of the sales for America. He just made a decision, sent a memo over to the CEO of America, Dominique Desolé, which eventually took over Gucci once Mauricio Gucci died. He just told them, just cut it off. So he didn't even think about like a strategy. Okay, you want to cut it off?
So what was the reason for doing that though?
No, he just wanted it to go back to the high brand, high prestige. He said he was right partially, but the strategy in executing it was wrong. You don't kill it straight away, because that is 50% of your sales, you know.
True. I mean, you could think about other ways, right? Like different products or similar products, and slowly phase it out.
You
while
reduce,
still maintaining the line.
Correct. He wanted to immediately go back to Gucci being recognized as the high-end luxury product. But again, you are targeting a very small niche. So it's about knowing your numbers. You don't just make like there's this quote I heard about marketing. It was fantastic. He said, a lot of people says marketing is no matter, you must have a good story, a good copyright. While that is important, actually someone said this, which is a very good quote. I said, marketing is 99% science, 1% fluff. I was a bit blown away. So he actually went on to justify this. He went on to justify to say, you see, right, when you do marketing, a lot of people, let's say they get, I'll give you an example, Roger Federer to become the ambassador of Rolex. Okay, so you pay him a sponsorship, maybe tens of millions, maybe even 100 million, right? But how will you be able to measure that? So you see, when you do branding campaigns, it's more of an awareness. But that's why Facebook today is such a large beast in terms of advertising, because it's very trackable, it's very auditable. The moment you send an ad, a targeted ad or whatever, you'll be able to measure your ROI. That's why they call it performance marketing today. It's evolved, you know. In the past, you have a billboard, whatever. How will you know if you really want to measure the impact? Then you will have to know, let's say Federal Highway. You put a billboard on Federal Highway, this particular junction. What kind of traffic condition? What's the number of cars that's passing through it? How many eyeballs? What's the propensity? All these kind of things all this is science, you know. It's not a like gut feel. You see?
Yeah, definitely can't do that. I mean, I guess nowadays they should have some ways of counting, right, how many cars are passing by, so they can also sell that to you, you know, like impressions wise.
Yes. And I think those are the kind of things that if I were to look back and advise people, if you don't know your unit economics well and you don't know your numbers, I think you're really headed into more trouble. All right. And the third thing, I think last but not least, is really knowing yourself. So why knowing yourself is important is, you see, most of the time we get attracted to partners because they may sound intelligent, they may sound very smart, they may do things in a different way, unconventional, that you get impressed with. But then, why do you get partners is because they should have complementary skills to you rather than being the same. If you find a partner that has exactly the same makeup as you, thinks exactly like you, that's when all the blind spots will start happening. That's where all the being nice to each other will start happening. But what you want in a partnership is actually contradictory thought processes. And how do you manage that in a professional manner? Because if you don't know your numbers and then you get a partner that is a yes, and he also not that very good in numbers, right? Walao, I tell you.
Like better burn your boat and leave now.
Yes, better burn your boat and leave now, you know.
Oh my
So yeah, those are the
I mean,
three
it's
things.
just gonna sink anyway. So at least, you know, cut your costs, cut your losses. Yeah, it's very
Yeah.
interesting. So, but I mean, how? I guess yeah. I guess you have to really know like where are your strengths or weaknesses, because before you can even do that, right? I think some people they don't even know. Like I remember when I was starting my first business, that this gadget one, I really didn't know. You know, really didn't know what was like. I felt like I should know everything. Yeah, yeah. But over time, like you eventually learn that okay, maybe I'm very introverted, so I'd rather have someone work with people who are more extroverted, so they can handle that side of like people management, that kind of thing. So I realized that, you know, no matter how hard I try, I cannot be an extrovert. Yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah, that kind of complementary skill sets, or even personalities, right? Not just skill sets, personalities, right? So let's say if someone is a yes guy, then you have to be the, you know, one that comes in and say, hey, maybe not really.
Correct.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, so I think
What about
that's
you, Louis? What do you think you
okay.
would tell your younger self?
My younger self, I think too many bad words which I cannot say in this podcast. I'll keep myself, I think. Yeah. But for the to a young person today, I'll be a lot kinder, and I'll tell them, you know, like and yeah, I also like from time to time get approached by different people at different stages of their business. So the most recent one that I worked with was a lady in their 50s. She had a capital of 150K. She wanted to start this jewelry business. So when she was like doing it, I told her, hey, you know, that what I mean, how are you going to brand it? Doesn't know how to brand it. Who are your competitors? Don't know. Then all those are many basic business things that, you know. Then I asked her, okay, so why do you want to start this? Oh, because I like jewelry. And then I said, oh, how do you price it? According to her feelings. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was telling her, based on this, right, you better keep your money first. Don't put too much. Learn just put a bit of your capital, because you are a bit inexperienced right now. So
Yes.
don't take the whole 150K, put it into one business. You will lose it completely. So
Right.
so maybe you can take about 10,000, invest in a small business, learn from it.
Correct.
And then from there, then, you know, next you'll likely lose the 10,000. It's very 90% chance, but at least you didn't lose the 150,000, right?
Correct. And if you can't make money from a small scale, that one, right, it will be tough for you to even scale up.
Yeah. It's like the lack of skill sets, even at that level, not understanding branding, competition, pricing models, the numbers, doesn't know all these numbers very well, doesn't have a proper supply chain management, costs, no idea about the cost and why that matters, like margins were too low. Like if you're selling this jewelry, you have to have a very high margin, because these are like very fast moving products, you see. If you don't sell them within this today or next week, nobody's gonna buy it. So you're gonna have all this like inventory left over, right? So these are you gotta think in terms of like the gross, about 70% at least.
At least.
So at least 70%. If you can do 90, even better, right?
Yeah.
So this is something that I would say, if you have some money you set away to start a business, don't put all the money in one business.
Correct.
Start small. Start with as small as you can. Second thing is, you must make sure that you have the skills to identify good business and what are the metrics that you should care about. Number 3, if you intend on hiring people, don't hire because you're lazy to run the business. Hire because they can help you grow the business.
Yes.
So this is some mistakes that I think sometimes people hire because they want to be a boss.
You are spot on, and even better, they say that this is something I don't want to do, but it's actually a very important thing for the business. Like, for example, yes, you can outsource the bookkeeping and accounting to an accountant. But you know what? There's a friend of mine who I actually do work some gigs with him. he said, he kept on complaining to me. He said, my accountant is not smart. He cannot think business strategy for me. Of course lah, you hire him to be an accountant ma.
Accountants, man. They are
Yeah.
the last person on earth you should ask for business strategy, right? They buy the book. That's their skill. We should have accountants who think about accounting very well instead of business in that way, you know, strategy.
Correct.
Not their place to do that. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think that's just a waste of money. Sometimes like people hire for hiring's sake, you know, you have a whole office full of people, but in terms of like the leverage that you gain, right? So let's say you hire someone, it's like you pay them 4K. You have to see, right? Okay, if I get this person in, will my business grow by at least 4K 1 month, then you maybe 40K.
To 48K a year lah.
Yeah. So you have to see like will can I bring in at least 500,000 more by this this person, especially in the early days, you see. People think that early day, okay, like it could be that you hire this person and it does free up more time for you, then you can do more sales. Great, you know, you probably can bring in the extra 500K. Then that's a good hire. But sometimes I think people hire just so they can have someone to boss around.
Yeah.
You know, can boss someone. It's a crazy waste of money. If you have a limited amount of money to burn, you can burn very fast if you hire people that way.
Correct.
And sometimes you simply buy things. Overstocking is another problem.
Yes. Overstocking because enthusiasm, hope. It's like, wow, this one sells very good. And it went nuts, you know.
So you have to, so the fourth would be like project, you know, and calculate everything. Your unit costs, you know, make sure that you understand this very well. And then does it make sense at this margin to pay this amount? And if you had to increase your volume to reduce the price, is it gonna sell? You know, these are the things that you really need to consider before putting it. That's why, back to the first point, you have to make sure that you don't put too much money in one business, because you can't learn the next three if you finish burning your money, right? If everything's burned, I think capital is the main fuel for any business lah. Human capital, and of course, you know, money. I think that's what I would tell them. Okay, so now do you think we have a time for one Reddit case study?
Yeah, we definitely have to do at least a case study lah, and let's use this to see how we can help the audience. Like when you are going to start a business, I think we've already listed out a few challenges: partnership, value sets, honesty, integrity, knowing your numbers, unit economics is very, very important, and also be very clear about the skill sets and that you have, knowing yourself, and also finding partners who are complementary but also differing from you lah. Okay, so let's read out the case study, Louis.
Okay, let me read it. So the title reads, Childcare or Something Else, Looking for Profitable Business Ventures in Malaysia. Hello everyone, my wife and I are a newly married couple in our early 30s, and we're excited to start a new chapter in our lives. I'm currently working in the property industry on a full commission basis, while my wife is employed in the banking sector. We have saved up 100K in cash, and we're interested in starting a new business in Malaysia. We've considered starting a daycare or kindergarten, but we're not sure if it's the right direction for us. Is anyone here involved in the childcare industry who could give us some advice? Are there any other profitable business ventures that we could explore? Are there any particular industries or sectors that are more promising than others? Any tips or insights would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
What do you think, Louis? Rather than I go on and share my opinion first, what do you think about this?
I feel scared. I feel scared because I mean, from here, it doesn't sound like they have too much experience handling children. And I think there is an assumption that 100K you can operate a daycare. Actually, not really.
I don't think it's even enough for renovation.
No. 100K, if you spend some money like properly, and by the way, daycare, right? There are some rules around that.
A lot, not just little, a lot.
A lot of rules, okay? A lot of rules. So if you had like children under a certain age, you can't put them in a random house. You see, you have to make sure that you know all these things are in place. That's gonna cost you some money. Depends on how big your place is, and then if okay, for certain age groups, you actually have to be qualified to work with them, right? So here we don't see if this couple doesn't appear to have degrees in education. I feel like they might need to hire at least one staff that's already gonna eat up like maybe this staff will be about 3 to 4K, about almost like 40% of the budget. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's for 1 year. Okay, rent maybe we say 6-8K. Finish already 1 year. We haven't talked about renovation. So I feel like daycare or kindergarten is even more expensive.
Yes.
Kindergarten, you need MOE approval. Teachers, hiring teachers, you cannot simply operate a kindergarten randomly. Like they need to be educated. I have family in education. So all of these rules you have to. The other way is you buy out another kindergarten or daycare center, but that's not going to cost 100K. It's going to cost a lot more. Yeah. Daycares are extremely profitable. Nobody's going to let go for 100K. Like, I think most daycares I know will have at least 30 kids, right? So that's like maybe we say
multiply 1,000 lah. Make it easy lah. 1,000 a month. So it's 30K a month, 1 year 360K. So let's just say margins of let's say 20-30% lah. 30%. 360K, you're talking about 100 over K lah. 100 over K, they sell you, let's say multiple of 10 lah. To be multiple of 10, you're already talking about minimum $1 million already.
That is true, right? So you're talking about that. So you are severely capital wise not enough at all to do this business. For me, I would say again going back to the advice earlier, don't put all the money into one business. Maybe explore other businesses where maybe you can put in 10K. Think about that, or do service-based business since the capital upfront is not much.
Correct. They're also asking, are there any profitable business? I'll just be very honest. I don't think Reddit is the best place to ask for business advice.
I think it's just people wanting to be anonymous. So hopefully we can have more people submitting your questions to us instead. Then we can give you some answers that you can also follow up with us here. Okay.
That's right. I think there's this one. Second thing, I think you've covered all the operational aspects quite well, and also we covered a bit of the financial aspects quite well. But I'll come in from another angle in which both your wife and yourself are not from this sector. Do you actually have the passion for kids? Because let's just say you do make money lah. You do make money. But as you scale, then more problems start coming. Because I'm very sure you and I, Louis, we've heard of so many crises that has happened from daycare center, child abuse or whatsoever. Because you may be caring, but you hire people that may not be caring. And if you don't care, because there's a lot of love and effort that's going to put in. I mean, I've got 2 kids. They went to 3 or 4 different childcare centers before. So I know the amount of work they need to put in taking care of kids or like whatsoever, right? It's not easy. You really have to put in love one. If you don't put in love and you don't have like some kind of passion for it, I think it's going to be really, really tough. Really tough. So it's not just the money-making part. Some people, they said, I think we discussed this, Louis. You have a friend who wants to start a restaurant business and they ask, why do you want to do this? Oh, because I like to eat.
And I think the most common answer I get when I ask them about any F&B then they will answer, people need to eat. That's not a good answer, People need to eat. Then people also need to poop. People also need to shower. Right? So why don't you start a business in bathroom supplies? That is actually more money making than cafes.
Precisely. And a lot of these guys, when they start, I was in a business mastermind class. I met someone who owns a chain of food courts. They do the drinks. Obviously, the drinks are very famous, but then they are at a stumbling block because one, scaling is not easy. Scaling is not easy. 2, it's still very hands-on operationally because you got to collect cash. You're afraid your staff siphon money, all that kind of thing, right? So it's not that these problems are totally avoidable. It's unavoidable. But what you do is because you have some love for the work, you kind of like say that, okay, it's part and parcel of the game. Rather than, you know, you go in, you totally have that one, no interest, no passion about it, but purely just because you want to make money, it's going to be even worse because you will take that emotional strain, all that stress onto, like, in this case, the child. And when even if you don't do that, even if it doesn't transfer, you have very good EQ control, your stress level as a business owner will translate to the culture of your staff, and your staff will translate it over to them. So for me, I'm more fearful of that rather than the making money or losing money part.
Okay, I think then but it's linked though, because if you start doing that, then you know obviously you don't have a business anymore. If you know there are child abuse cases, and I think our government will take it very seriously. They'll unguard your license lah, obviously. So you cannot run another center, and there are also other problems related to the parents, your reputation.
What if the worst case scenario happens? You know, I mean, I'm not trying to sound pessimistic or poor quarter. It's just that I think these are the things that you have to evaluate. I mean, this person who is like thinking of this, you have to evaluate first lah. Because there was a time I interviewed this company, Louis, LYC. They're publicly listed, LYC. I did a video feature on them. They actually run confinement centers. I think one of the few professionally run confinement centers. And I did ask them about the competition. You know, those guys that took a hotel, converted it, boutique hotel, converted in confinement centers.
I didn't know they exist.
Oh, there's a lot. I also didn't know. I didn't know all that, because you're handling like a zero day one kind of child, which is even
in a hotel,
more severe in a hotel. And then these kind of things, you need bomba license one, you know. You need escape routes, all these kind of details, right? Yeah. And then I asked them what's their struggle. Is because they charge a premium, and they, you know, once I understand the unit economics and all that, they really, I feel it was value for money lah. Looking back at going through a confinement lady and then buying my things and all that kind of thing, right? And I look at them, all the staff that take care of the babies are all trained nurses, you know. Professionally trained nurses. That should be the way, right?
That should be the way. I mean, if you're going to a confinement center, it definitely should be trained nurses. Yeah. Well, who else would do it, you know?
Right.
Or aunties, or those depends which one. Yeah.
But auntie, how you going to evaluate? It's very subjective, man. They said, oh, I've taken care of who and who, baby. How are you going to evaluate?
That's true.
Yeah.
At least nurses we know like that.
Yeah. So for me, I look at it again. You must do your homework, lah. It's not that because, oh, I see this guy, oh, he made this kind of money, but that's just the tip of the iceberg, you know. There's so many things. Like, again, before the pod, I shared with you, one of a friend, they wanted to start a tofu fa and the soybean truck business. First thing, 7 partners. Said, okay. Wow. Second thing, I asked, okay, what's your runway? She was like a bit stunned. I said, what do you mean by runway? Yeah, but I said, what is runway means? How much money you got to put in, how much you got to burn based on a fixed expense or whatever, and how much have you got left for, you know, to pay salary partners or whatever. Are you guys happy to burn like 200,000, 300,000 for how long before you break even? Have you crunched out, at least, you don't need to be precise, but at least you crunch out your basic unit economics first, right? And then third thing, who's handling the business? You got 7 partners, all of you working, all of you professionals. So who's going to have the operational role? Who's going to that? All these kind of things, right? Even business model for me is like what you say lah, jewelry business. You don't have gross margins of 70% and above, of 60% and above. Very slow moving one, already very tough. You go to soybean, tofu fa, yes, fast moving. But operationally, how do you, because your margins now, yes, it's fast moving, but your margins now are thinner, because lower barriers to entry. Then operationally, for me, that kind of business is operational efficiency one, you know. How do you make sure the guy pouring the sugar is not like wasting sugar? How do you make sure that the lights are turned on, turned off? How do you ensure that the machinery you buy to produce is making it efficiently rather than wastage? Because it adds up, 1% wastage here, 1% wastage here. Food business, you know?
Yeah, food business is already razor thin margins.
Right? Yes.
You know, yeah. So I'm curious, like how did they stumble upon this tofu fa business?
They just saw just saw one guy or one of their 7 friends just propose the idea, and then they say, hey, can make money. But then once you really go down into the details and crunch, right, then I don't think they've gone to that detail. Everyone is just like, yo, we think of how many cups you sell today, and then, that kind of thing. So again,
I think any time you have more than 2 partners, right, you have to really think about what each partner is contributing. It's not just money. It's just money. Every business I've seen, like yours, I know of like one business run by 8 partners, like 10 plus years ago, and then like each of them were from rich families, so very lazy to work, and like we just partner open a little F&B kiosk, and then like when the time comes, they're like, oh, how come not making money? Was like burning. I don't know how it incurred losses about 8K a month. 8K a month. Yeah, and then like everyone was blaming each other. In the end, they stopped being friends. All 8 of them. Yeah.
Sad, right?
Because,
it's a bit sad, right?
Yeah, it's sad because like they were very close since childhood. That's why they started this business. Each of them, I think, put about 10K in. Then they started this kiosk, and then like eventually, because nobody actually like wanted to run it. Like when it comes to the day-to-day operations, like everyone's like, hey, isn't X running it? Isn't Y doing it? Then a few months later, it closed, and then their friendship also closed. So I think sometimes people don't think about those things.
Yeah, that's why earlier I said about try not to go into business with your friends or even family members. I mean, sometimes, yes, the family members or the friends already set up an existing system, whatever, then yeah, you can grow it to another level. But at the beginning phase, right, at an infancy stage for any business, there's so many variables that can go wrong. I think if I were to look on the positive side rather than just purely on the pessimistic side, start small, experiment. Don't think about, yes, your business may eventually be $1 billion business, but if you can't even prove it to work at a small prototype level, right, I highly doubt it can scale. I give you one very classic example. This is a company publicly listed, and now I think the sale already happened. They already sold to FNN, but how this business started and how the reason why they started was very intriguing to me. So this company I'm talking about is Coca-Land. I don't know if you heard of that, Coca-Land. Lot 10?
Yeah, I did. Because you asked me to study the family feud thing.
Oh, yes.
That's why I know,
Yeah. So to the audience, what they just wanted to survive. They were doing trading business, selling candy, all that kind of thing, but they were not yet a manufacturer. And one thing led to the other. They just wanted, they said they never imagined Coca-Land would be close to $1 billion business. All they wanted was to make sure that the family had food on the table. And then I think through honest, sheer hard work, dedication, honesty, and all that kind of thing, they grew a company. They sold to FNN for 700 million. So the reason why they sold was because also, I think, and this is where I really kind of on the surface respect their value sets, is because they said no one from the second generation wanted to take over. So I think they were honest enough to look at it and say, hey, no one within the ranks of the family could run this professionally, and they wanted to give it someone to scale it up and run it professionally. I think that's the reason why they picked FNN lah. So again, they already had a small scale profitable model to begin with, which was trading, all that kind of thing. And eventually they scale up to be a manufacturer and their own brand owner, which is Lot 10 Gummy Gummy, right? I love their sweets, by the way.
Yeah, me too, the mango one.
Yes, correct. So you see, as a business, the more parties you have involved and the more people wants to be hands-off, that's exactly a recipe for disaster. Because it's like, the joke we have about burger stands are, I studied in Kedah, Louis, so that's why my friend told me this, only I understood. He said, you see those burger stalls on the roadside, right? And you see a lot of motorbikes parked next to each other. Those are not customers, those are all shareholders. There's only one guy flipping the burger, but all the 7 or 8 motorcycles next to it, these are all the capital partners, the friends of friends. So 7 people looking at one guy flipping the burger.
That's so interesting. And
yeah.
So, how much capital do you need to start that? You need 7 partners for it. Interesting.
I think most of them contribute few hundred, So again, I'm just using this as an example to your point about, people just forking in money but no sweat equity.
Yeah.
When you think of this kind of sweat equity, this is exactly why businesses don't grow lah. Yeah.
It makes sense. I mean, one last question though. I mean, would you say there is a specific business you recommend, like they are looking for like any profitable, or would you say like it's better to look at some qualities in the business?
Very good question, and yeah, I didn't cover that. I think for them, these two, rather than look at something that works for other people, look inwards. So you're looking at property industry, and your wife's a bank. What is the one problem that within your skill set, within your temperament, within your character, that you will find it easy? So I wouldn't be able to answer that because only they will know best themselves. But I'm guessing like property industry, what's wrong with doubling down and scaling up? Because they are fully commissioned. So in a way, you're your own business unit already.
Makes sense.
Rather than trying to start something new that you have, less experience with, you don't even know how to like, if you don't even have like a diploma in childcare education or work for some childcare education facility before, how will you know the nooks and crannies of it? And if your wife is from the banking sector, I'm very sure there are certain problems within the banking sector that she can provide a solution with, that may not need a lot of startup capital, that does not need a lot of new relearning. That could also be another angle,
Very good
I would
points.
advise going into things that involve human lives.
Agree.
Yeah.
I mean, personally, I also avoid like animal lives at the same time.
Yeah.
Human lives, yes. Kindergarten stuff. I mean, I personally don't have that patience for like daycares and caring myself. Yeah, so I avoid at all costs. Anything to do with children or
correct. Tuition center, okay. I mean, because you're not dealing with the healthcare, whatever. It's already more adult kind of thing. But you're talking about daycare, right? You're talking about like
infant to under 5, right?
Yes. So for me, that's the amount of risk you're taking.
I just read this like book about like all these like children under 5. When they are in daycare centers that are not cleaned properly, they get a lot more in infectious diseases which are permanent. They will have permanent risk exposure to certain illnesses for life. So this is scary. So if you don't have the passion to clean everything properly, to use the right protocols, I think it's a bit scary. Because they're very young, it's tiny bodies. A small thing that doesn't affect an adult, right? To a little kid is gonna be like life threatening.
Correct. The immune system is not fully developed yet, ma.
Yeah, correct. Nothing is fully developed. So the bodies and nothing is fully developed. Like the little kids now get a lot of eczema, right? Because the immune system. Even that, right? They're attacking them from all angles. Okay, I think it's gone long enough, John. So we close here. Okay, so thank you so much, John, for sharing your experiences, and I hope that our audience will also find value in my sharing. I actually have never properly shared this experience before, so if you have other questions that maybe I haven't thought about or John hasn't thought about, you can leave them in the comment sections below. And if you have a question, you can also go to our website, WangHiro.com, and then click on the Ask a Question button and leave your question there. You can also submit it anonymously if you want to. So guys, thanks again for tuning into this video today, and we hope to see you in our future one. Like and subscribe. See you guys in the next one.